Hi everyone, Greg here. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to register a domain name, and I'm going to guide you through the entire process. That is registering the domain name itself, but then also dealing with DNS, setting up Apache, and then getting the certificate for HTTPS. So basically the entire process to get you to a point where you have basically your Hello World page on your website, and basically you're ready to go. Also, what I need to mention here is that a lot of different companies will be featured in this video. This is not a sponsored video. I did not get any money from any of the companies that you're going to see, even though they're always welcome to send me money. And all I am claiming about those companies is that I've used them in the past and they have worked out fine for me. Whether they are a good match for you, that is a decision you need to make for yourself. Let's get into it. So the very first step, obviously, is you just think of a domain name. So I'm just going to type in something here. I'm not actually going to use that one, but what about spacearena.com? Okay. And the first thing I want to show you is that you can really spend as much money as you like on a domain name. So here you're going to see prices that range from, let me see, 88 cents in euros all the way up to, I've seen prices of 5,000 euros. I think, hold on, I think, what was it, Space Fight? I think that one is like crazy. Yeah, you see 5,000 euros. So, you know, it's all down to your budget, and if you have 5,000 euros to spend and you want to spend it on a domain name, then that's you and you go crazy. But I'd rather not spend that amount of money. I don't have that amount of money anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to very intelligently choose a domain name here. And what I've basically decided I'm going to use is Cosmo Arena. Right, now the reason I'm going to choose that one is because, number one, it's a fairly affordable one with .com, right? I think people prefer .com than if I do .xyz. I don't know, do people care? Do people care that it's .com? I think people tend to take a .com domain more seriously and kind of tend to gravitate more towards that. I think there is that psychological factor there, I'm not sure. But anyway, that is what I'm going to go for. And so obviously you choose whatever makes sense for you. So I'm just going to press add to cart. And and I'm going to select here SSL because I actually want to enable HTTPS. This is something I would choose anyway, even if I were not making this video. The thing is, people find it suspicious nowadays when there's no SSL. Like, web browsers will warn people if there's no SSL, so it's basically the safer option to use. So that's all I want here, so I'm just going to click on checkout. And then domain privacy, yes, I would like that, so I click it on enabled, and it's free anyway. So you might be wondering, what is that domain privacy all about? Well, actually anyone can very easily look up who registered a domain name. So let me just demonstrate to you how you do that. So I'm just going to type in whois.domaintools.com, and then I'm going to go / and then google.com. You type in there whatever the domain is that you want to look up. So if you do this, and you go through that process here. So what I can see here is who registered that domain name. So apparently that's Google LLC. I can see the company they did register it with. And so basically here, organization, you see Google LLC, and it will even tell me that they're based in California. So I'm getting some information here. And obviously, we all know google.com, but the thing is, you can do that for just about any domain, and if you have that whois protection, you can still do it, but you're just not going to see as much information. So I'm going to put this on. yeah, I'm gonna select this for a year, right? I'm gonna pass on all the other offers that they're giving me, and then I'm gonna press confirm order. And so obviously it goes without saying, I do actually have an account with this company, and if you don't, well, then you just have to create an account first, and I assume you know how to do that. So now I'm going to move on to actually paying for the domain, and for obvious reasons I'm not going to show you that part of the process, so I'm going to see you again in a second once I've actually paid for the domain. Okay, so this is done, and now I've actually paid. So you can see here the little card is green, so this is done. So I'm actually going to do this bit next, and I'm going to set up DNS for my domain. So I'm going to click on this button here, manage. And then here you see where it says name servers. I'm going to click on custom DNS. And then here I'm going to put name servers. Now those DNS servers, who do they belong to? Well, in my case, they belong to Linode, which is the company that actually does the hosting for my website. So what I'm going to do is, I think if I remember this correctly, it's ns1.linode.com and ns2.linode.com. And that's kind of a very typical naming scheme for name servers. I'm going to show you in a minute how you actually know this. And I mean, this is going to vary depending on which hosting company you choose, but I'm going to show you it in a second. I'm going to log into Linode and set up the DNS there. Alright, so that should be done on this side. So now I'm going to log into my Linode account. Right, so I simply log in. So first thing I want to show you is when I click on domains, and then I click here on docs, then you can see on this page here, it will tell me what the DNS servers are. Every single company will need to tell you in some fashion what their DNS servers are, and so you just need to look it up in their documentation. Next thing I want to show you is when I click on the Linode. So that's summary of my server. Then here I'm seeing the IP address, IPv4 and IPv6, and then I can click on copied, and now I have this IP address copied for the domain configuration I want to do in a minute. Right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on domains. I'm going to click on create domain. And then here now I'm going to create Cosmo Arena. Sorry. And you can have Linode do it for you. I prefer to do it myself. Some domain records. So the MX has to do with email. I'm not going to use email with this domain name. And then those A records, those are simply domains and subdomains. So basically here now I'm just going to scroll down, and MX again has to do with email. I'm not going to do that. Now the host name, for every subdomain I have to create a new record. So if I want 3 times W there, I have to create a record for that. If I want, let's say, admin.cosmoarena.com, I would have to create a record for that. For every subdomain that you want, you need another one of those records. TTL is time to live, which has to do with how long the DNS server is caching the data for. I always leave that to the default. So there we are. And again, for every subdomain, so right, and my server has 2 IP addresses, an IPv4 and an IPv6, so I'm just going to repeat that same process for the other IP address. So this is done, and that basically is all that I should do to set up DNS. This is not necessarily going to work yet, and the reason for that is because it might take a while for basically the DNS information to propagate through the various servers. So all the different DNS servers, they need to talk to each other and exchange information, and so it could take somewhere around 24 or 48 hours for that information to propagate through the network and your website to actually start working. At least that's what they say. In my experience, it's always been much faster than that, like within the hour. But of course, your mileage may vary. And so as I'm trying this now, immediately after the fact, this is not actually working and the site can't be reached. I'm not worried about it yet. I'm not yet thinking that there's some kind of big flaw in my setup or anything like that. It just takes a while for this to work. Okay, so meanwhile, we are roughly 1 hour after I actually registered this domain name and I began setting up the DNS servers and all of that stuff. And you see that in Firefox, I can actually load the domain name and I have that hello world page showing up. You see that we're working with HTTP here, which is why Firefox is giving me this warning. And with Chrome, this is still not loading. Now, I think it's just because Chrome has remembered that this is not actually accessible, so therefore it's just gonna keep telling me this. Now, one trick you may use if you notice in Chrome that the DNS error does persist for a really long time is you simply press F12. And that will get you into developer mode, and then that gives you the option to right click on that refresh button, and then you see empty cache and hard reload, and you press on that. That will cause Chrome to forget everything it knows about your domain and just start again from scratch to try to access the website. So if you notice that this DNS error is persisting for longer than you think is reasonable, you can try that trick and it might work then. Okay, so now I'm logged into my SSH server. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to etc Apache 2 sites available. And there I'm going to see that I have a configuration files, and one of them being the greginc.com, my main website. I am simply going to copy this. Right, and then I'm going to edit that, and I'm going to push a file like that. I might just use a example.com domain, but I'm going to put some kind of file like that on the GitLab so that you be able to use it as a template. And I'm going to edit this. Now, whatever you see starts with the hash. This is just a comment, but I'm going to change that anyway. So cosmoareno.com. Okay, now you see virtual host, it says 80. Now this is a TCP port, and this is used for HTTP. And then if we scroll down, we're going to see something very similar, but here it says 443. This is used for HTTPS. Now, I don't have this right now. There's no HTTPS. And I'm concerned in the first place with making HTTP work. And then in a minute, we're going to see how to make this work. So for now, I'm just going to comment all this out. I'm just going to not worry about that part. So this is really all you need, and you put your own email address there, and use an email address that is like a public email. Don't put your private important email up there. And then wherever you see cosmoareno.com, you just replace it with whatever your domain name is, and you know, everything should work just the same. If you're going to use CGI, so that is to say, write scripts either in Perl or in C for your website, you don't need it for PHP. So basically this is it. So So I'm going to save and exit. So once you've done all that, what is the next step? Well, the next step is you do this. Now, this is a command that is specifically for Apache, and basically it tells Apache to add that domain. So I'm just going to run this now, and again, I'm forgetting to do. And now it tells me to reload Apache. So, and this time I'm not going to forget to do so. Okay, so now I'm logged in on my web server through SSH. I'm logged in as root. I'm inside the search directory of the root home directory. You need OpenSSL installed, which you almost certainly already do if you have a web server, but if you don't, if you have a Debian-based Ubuntu system, then this is basically how you would install it. So now I'm going to create the CSR, the certificate signing request. Then I'm going to show to Comodo through the namecheap.com UI. They are going to basically sign it for me so that I can have a valid certificate signed by an independent third party, and that way actually be trusted on the internet by people who browse my website. So I'm just going to type in the command to do that. It's a long command. Okay, so that's basically the command. Obviously, you would replace this by whatever your domain name is. I'm going to press enter. And then it's going to ask me a whole bunch of questions, and you just fill them in. So the country, I'm in Ireland here, so I'm just going to type IE. So there's no state, really. The city isn't really necessary. Here, I'm just going to type in my name. You don't have to type in everything. Now, there, I'm going to type in the domain name. The challenge password is not really necessary, so I'm just going to skip that. And there we are. So now, what I have here, so now here I have the key. This is what you keep secret. This is what you keep for yourself. So, right, so it's going to say begin private key, and then you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff, and end private key. This you don't show to anyone. So let's just make it disappear, and let's show the other bit again. So this is my certificate request, right? So I'm gonna just copy the whole thing because that's what I actually need to submit. I'm gonna go back again to the Namecheap website. I'm gonna click on SSL certificates. Here I'm gonna click on activate. And then I'm gonna paste this in there. It's giving me the domain name here. Click next. Now what basically is going to happen here is that you submit it to Comodo. They certify that you say who you say you are. But of course, how did they know that? Well, there's a couple of different techniques here. I'm gonna click upload a validation file. Basically what that means is they're going to tell me within the domain name cosmoareno.com, upload that particular file. They then will check whether I have done so. And once I have, there will be proof to them that indeed I do control that domain name, and so therefore I'm the legitimate holder of that website, of that domain name. So I'm going to click next. I'm just going to copy this link. Okay, I'm gonna click download file. So basically the contents of this file, I need to put that in on my server. So that's just a simple matter of uploading the file to your web server, and it has to be placed in the specific folder .well-known and then PKI-validation. So it's just a simple matter of uploading that file to your web server, and it has to be placed in that specific, you need to give it that specific URL that I just copied. So now I'm just going to assume that you know how to upload a file to your web server. So I'm not going to show you that bit. And by the way, I have an entire video that deals with how to implement file upload on your server. So I'm just going to cut this bit out, and I'll see you again after I've uploaded the file. So meanwhile, I've uploaded that file to my website. So if I click on this now, see the file is there. And when I click on the other link, the file is there as well because it's available through both means. Now when I go again to SSL certificates, I see that that same one active. And now I can download and so when I open this, you see there's a couple of files in there, and now I'm going to upload those files to my web server. Alright, so now I'm back on my web server in the sites available directory. I'm going to edit again this file that I did edit earlier. But now I know that the HTTP does work, and I'm going to focus my attention now on the other one. So I'm going to simply uncomment a whole bunch of those things. Alright, so I adjusted all the domain names. And obviously the main thing here is SSL engine on, and then the certificates. And obviously you have to make sure that you recognize the file that I downloaded just from namecheap.com. Obviously you have to make sure that those files are actually in that directory. The key, the private key that was already on the web server, on my own web server, just I need to move it from the certs directory to this directory. That's another file I downloaded from the namecheap.com website. So with all this in place now, when I reload Apache, in principle, things should work. There's another comment sign there. I need to remove that. So save the changes. Now I just realized that I didn't actually copy the key from the source directory to SSL. That's done now. And so now cross fingers, G2. So now in theory this should work. So now let's have a look. So I'm going here and I'm just going to type HTTPS, and is that going to work? And it does. Okay, you see that I actually have the little padlock there now, and connection is secure. Certificate is valid. Thank you very much. And so we've done it. We've actually set up the server. We've registered a domain name. We've set up the DNS, set up Apache. We got the certificate signed, and now we're all ready to go. And now it's just a matter of designing the website itself. So that's basically done. And you see there are quite a few steps here, and some of them are a little bit tricky, and you know, it's easy to trip up. And every time I do this, I do it a little bit faster because I'm getting quite used to it now. But you see, it's actually possible to do this very quickly once that you get used to the process. Okay, so I hope you learned something. I hope you found this informative, maybe a little bit entertaining, I don't know, and hopefully this was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.